Hopefully soon, we'll all be able to travel and see some of the great historic sites around this country and around the globe. When that happens, I encourage everyone to come to Boston. In addition to Revolutionary Space's Old State House and Old South Meeting House, we have loads of other historic sites and monuments. I think that they're the best in the world, and I'm willing to put that to the test in a segment we call Boston Versus. First up is Philadelphia's Liberty Bell, a broken bell with historical significance that nobody knows in a city nobody likes. Here in Boston, we have the Liberty Tree. And sure, it's gone. It was cut down in the 18th century, but there's a monument to it in a building that used to house the Massachusetts RMV. If you're not familiar, the RMV is like a DMV, but it's in Massachusetts, because here in Boston, we like to make things one step more complicated than they need to be. The RMV moved though, and now it houses the crown jewel of all of Boston, a Dunkin' Donuts. San Antonio has the Alamo, which we will never forget. But here in Boston, we have the Alamo rent-a-car that Mark Wahlberg worked at in the movie Ted. Washington, D.C. has the Washington Monument. In Boston, we have the Bunker Hill Monument. They pretty much look the same, but the Bunker Hill Monument wasn't built by slaves, which actually, we should check on that, right? I hate to be wrong about that. Oh my God. The Washington Monument can boast that it hasn't been puked on as many times by a guy named Fitzy, but the Bunker Hill Monument is authentically Boston. We even named it after the wrong hill, because here in Boston, we love to make things one step more complicated than they need to be. Also in Washington, you can visit the National Archives and see the U.S. Constitution. But here in Boston, we have the USS Constitution. The extra S stands for savings. Now, the USS Constitution is undefeated, whereas the US Constitution has, let's be honest, taken some L's. Also, the USS Constitution is being refurbished, whereas the US Constitution is constantly being dismantled. South Dakota has Mount Rushmore, a monument shrine to 4 American presidents. But if you want to see 4 big, dense heads lined up next to each other, you can go to McGreevy's on Boylston Street. There's been some criticism of Mount Rushmore because it was built on stolen indigenous land. And now, of course, Boston was also built on indigenous land, but McGreevy's was built on landfill. We stole that land from Aquaman. New York City has the Statue of Liberty, a symbol of freedom throughout the world. In Boston, we have that girl at Mass Art who is committed to wearing only teal. Just as good and not as French. Internationally, there's Egypt's Pyramids of Giza. Here we have the majestic Pyramid of Boston. Sweet Caroline, oh, good times never felt so good, so good, so good, so good. And let's not forget our sister nation, Ireland, where millions travel every year to kiss the Blarney Stone. Whereas in Boston, millions travel every year to kiss Fitzy's mom, Edna! On the border of Nepal and China, there is Mount Everest, the highest elevation in the world. Just outside Boston in Chelsea is a giant snow pile, which is the highest elevation in Massachusetts until it melts in early July. And that has been a segment of Boston Versus.